No, talking robots?
No robots.
Better not say that. Brian Quinn's here with Business News on the programme. Apple. We're talking about apples, aren't we?
Indeed. Apple, after months of anticipation, finally unveiling a bunch of new products on Tuesday, including the much-awaited iPhone X. But the flashy new flagship product comes with a hefty price tag. Rebecca Rosman reports.
One more thing.
Could this be Apple's biggest leap forward? Speaking from Apple headquarters in Cupertino, California on Tuesday, CEO Tim Cook unveiled 3 new iPhone models, the iPhone 8, 8 Plus, and this expected showstopper, the iPhone X. Users can unlock their phones using facial recognition technology, use wireless charging, and enjoy higher quality photos and video thanks to the sleek new OLED display. Apple's also ditched the home button to make more room for the screen. But it all comes at a $1,000 price tag. Begging the question, given the price, will people be interested in buying it?
It never occurred to me in a million years people would spend $1,000 for a smartphone, but given that it's Apple, I bet you a lot of people will.
Apple's hoping the iPhone X will signal the company's comeback as an innovation leader after lagging behind rivals in recent years. After all, it was Apple that introduced the first ever smartphone 10 years ago.
And we are calling it iPhone.
Apple shares closed down 0.4% yesterday, but have been up almost 40% on the year. Despite yesterday's closure, analysts are predicting the iPhone X will not only put Apple back on the map as a top innovator, it could also turn the tech giant, currently valued at $830 billion, into the world's first trillion-dollar company within the next year.
And French paper Le Parisien pointing out today the cost of that new iPhone X about equal to a full month of minimum wage salary here. Parisians not exactly lining up for it just yet.
It is a little pricey, isn't it? A very pricey gadget. Any effect on the markets then from that launch, Brian?
Well, Asian index is mixed on Wednesday. Apple suppliers in South Korea gaining ground, not enough to keep the Kospi index out of the red, though. Chinese Apple suppliers, on the other hand, actually losing ground. That's not doing any favors for the Hang Seng index in Hong Kong. It's down around 0.3%. The Nikkei in Japan closing up nearly 0.5% as a softening yen helps the markets there. Markets over here in Europe opening down a bit despite record highs on Wall Street yesterday. London's FTSE 100 off by 0.3%. The CAC 40 here in Paris down 0.1%, and the Frankfurt DAX down 0.2%.
Now, one of those Chinese Apple suppliers is Foxconn. It has just gotten quite a boost in its bid to open a US factory.
That's right. The state senate in Wisconsin has voted to approve a $3 billion incentive package for Foxconn in a bid to encourage it to open that factory. And the taxpayer-funded cash payment is 10 times larger than any state has ever offered a business to relocate. Foxconn's planning to invest $10 billion in a new flat-screen production facility that it says would employ some 3,000 workers to start with, possibly increasing up to 13,000 jobs. Analysts estimate still, though, it would take the state at least 25 years to get its money back and increased revenues. Critics of the deal say there's no guarantee Foxconn would have to uphold its end of the deal. But Republican senators were confident in their decision. Let's take a listen.
We just had a discussion in our own caucus about how specific can the legislature be in determining and making sure and dropping the hammer and forcing this corporation to do this. But the fact of the matter is, I think what we're putting in place clearly delineates a path for that to happen.
Well, let's take a look at some more of today's top business headlines. The Trump administration is taking a hands-off approach to self-driving cars. U.S. Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao announced new voluntary guidelines for the industry at a visit to a testing facility Tuesday. The guidelines are intended to speed the development of self-driving cars, but they come as investigators have put partial blame on Tesla's autopilot function for a fatal crash last year. And J.P. Morgan Chase's CEO says Bitcoin is a fraud. Jamie Dimon says the digital currency was, quote, worse than tulip bulbs, that being a reference to one of history's most famous financial bubbles. Bitcoin has quadrupled in value since the beginning of the year, with one coin currently worth around $4,000. However, the price fell 4% following Dimon's comments.
And finally, for business from Brian, tech disruption we're talking about now on the programme. It's hit many industries later, but now there's yet another with skin in the game.
That's right. Well, lab-grown meat has been getting a big market push for a few years now. Big agriculture and tech investors alike pushing to create a burger without having to raise and slaughter cows. Now leather is getting a similar treatment. U.S. startup Modern Meadow uses biotechnology and special yeast to create sheets of material identical to bovine collagen. They've raised over $50 million in startup cash and are looking to bring their product to market within 2 years. In the meantime, though, their first garment is debuting next month in New York. It's a T-shirt, which I thought was odd, Stuart, because when you launch a leather product, obviously you want to start with the assless chaps.
A leather chaps, yeah, exactly. A leather T-shirt that smells of yeast.
Yeah,
probably.
it sounds like a winner.
Yeah, maybe chaps would be better smelling of yeast. Brian with
I think
business. So. Oh, France 24.